Okay. Hopefully we're being recorded now. And because we didn't have anyone who was ready for a type 3 install to do, I got a demo site. And if you want to link, if you want to sort of watch what I'm doing yourself, we're at demo-test.onename.net. Okay. As I said, this is a demonstration of a TNG Type 3 member website setup, initial setup. I restricted it to the Type 3 setups because if you're doing a Type 2 TNG site, you're going to end up being responsible for installing software and managing the software. And this is just a much simpler approach to doing it. All you have to know about is how to fill in some settings and uploading a GEDCOM. And this site is a completely empty site. I could show it to you. I could do a search and it'll show you that I have nobody there. And so it's all brand new, and it's the way you, if you request a Type 3 site, exactly how you would see it. Now I'm going to log in. I think the only thing I've done is to set up a login. And then going into the administration, which is the back end. The back end is how you manage your site. There are several functions here. As you get more familiar with them, you'll see how they all fit together. I'm going to hit to a couple of them right now. I'm going to start here over here with the user's site. The first thing you're going to want to do when you create when you get a new site is to make sure you create a personal admin account. And that's what I've done here to set up this account. An admin account is one that you can log into. Now they will give you one. This J. Lisle one that you see here was the one they gave me. They also have a TNG team admin account. This is what the support people will use if they're trying to help you, if the support people are working to help you with your site. Don't delete it. That's the key thing that I tell you about. If you don't have an admin account with your site, you can't do any of the things that I'm about to show you about. The first place you want to go is into the setup. You have 6 setup functions. You don't have to work with every one of them, and most of the setups you can change afterwards. If you decide to tweak your site in a different way. The first place is the general settings. Database, table names, paths and folders. That's all the way. That's the way your site connects to the internet and to the database. You don't touch that. You do want to go into the site design and definition. You want to give your site a name. And you can write a description. These will be useful to when people are looking at your site. You want to identify the site owner. Now, and one of the reasonably new features is you can put a footer on each page, and that footer can be something like, this is a study of the Mary surname. Anything, but that is a way of tying all of your pages with your surname in another way, so that the Google machine will help find things. Most of these other settings are how I would, the defaults are more or less how I would set them up. But again, you have your after you've had a chance to play with this, you can decide you want to change some things around. Media has a couple of places where you want to look at. One of the things that I always make sure is that I always show the full image of a media item. Again, most of the settings here are as you would want them to be. They've done a good job of setting up having the settings match what most users are going to want. Language is something you don't have to change. Some people who may be having a study that, say, is for a French surname, and they have a lot of French people, they may want to allow the site to be able to be displaying either in French or in English, and that capability exists. Privacy is something that all of your everybody is concerned about. I know that in Australia, the privacy rules are much stricter than they are in the United States, but not quite, but even stricter than they are in the UK, even with GDPR. There's settings here that you can decide how you wish to do it. There is options to, if you're LDS, you can display LDS data, or if none of your people are LDS, you can just turn that off if you want. Now the question is living data. The way I operate is that I upload the living data, but I don't show it to anybody. I don't give any user the right to see living data. The only people who have that access are the people who are administrators to my sites. But I have it there because I want to use this site as sort of a backup for my study. Now, when you display living people, you can either display their full names, not just display them as the name living, or you can abbreviate the first name or their given name. The standard the default that the guilds suggest is abbreviate first name. That is also what I would recommend. But again, your privacy rules and your privacy feelings may be different. I mean, and also if you have anybody listed as private, you can either decide that you want to show their name, not show their name, or abbreviate their first name. The same way. I recommend that you just let TNG show them as private. There's a couple of things here about reCAPTCHA which is a detail that we can get into at some later time. It has to do with when you have inquiries, whether or not the people have to prove they're a robot or not. And you have to have and I think you have to have a Google account to get one of these reCAPTCHA keys and such. It used to be that these were offered by the guild, but Google's rules are changing, so that became less available. Names is another one that you want to personalize. How do you want to show the names on your site? Most people were going to go first name first, so that you would say, so your name would show as Richard Mary or Karen Rogers. But some people prefer surname first, or with or without a comma. The option is there. Some people like to show surnames in uppercase. You can select that. I don't recommend it. And then there's some options here dealing with how you want to display what I call compound surnames. This would be like Dutch surnames or French surnames, where you have prefixes to the name, like de Lisle or Vanderbilt. Okay. One of the capabilities of TNG is you can build virtual cemeteries. And there's some features there. Just leave it for this way until you've decided whether or not you want to build any cemeteries. You want to set an email address. Put your email address in. And when your site sends out mail, you have the choice of whether or not you send it from that address or some other address. Let me go back up here to require login and the privacy. The guild wants your site not to be closed down. You want to be able to show that the site that a visitor can see all of the non-private data without any trouble. That's part of the reason we're doing this, because we want to have an inventory of things. But you may want to give some users additional privileges. So you want to be able to say allow new user registrations. And then there's some options that you get more detailed. Again, leave these more or less as they are in the as they're arranged. But again, if you find things to change, I changed this one here: send acknowledgement email to yes. And the reason I'm doing that is because when someone registers for an account on my site, I like to be able to send them an email back with their login name and password, but also a sort of message to begin a communications with them, so that I can get further information. Again, another section that you probably don't need to change. The site is now very mobile responsive, so that you can read it on your tablet or your phone. And these are just some parameters for the mobile work. There's a reasonably new DNA section. Again, this is something that you can add to your site and work on parameterizing once you've decided how you want to incorporate DNA information into your site. What the default there is fairly good. Miscellaneous section. Again, these are a bunch of things about how you do stuff. When you show notes from your GEDCOM, where do you show them? I use the underneath corresponding events where possible. That gets the notes closest to the data that they're associated with. You want to set something that relates to the server time and the offset, so that the times you see are in your time zone and not in the time zone of the server, which is in England. So I will put in here -5 because of for showing it for where I am, but you would set it based on where you are set. With TNG, you can allow your users to download GEDCOMs of your data. I don't. I never do. If a person wants to see my data, they can see my data. If they want to transcribe it into their genealogy, they can just take their computer and hand copy it down. I'm not going to let them use a GEDCOM, so I always zero that out. And then how do you want a numeric date displayed? I would suggest that probably you want to use day, month, year. That's probably how you in Australia normally would see it. You can pick the first day of the week, of which is the first day of your week. Some people use Sunday, some use Monday. Okay. So when you've made all your setting changes, you do a save. Chart settings. Most of these chart settings you don't have to change. They get to details of how you would display something, but there's a couple here that I think are ones that you probably want to consider. In the descendancy chart, there's several different types of descendancy charts with the product. One of them is a register format. I always go to the option here, remove individuals with no family, because in a register format, you don't need that information. Just another whole paragraph for someone whom you don't show as being married and has no children. Also, do you want to and on a register, do you want to show notes and custom events? I always select yes on that. Relationship charts, again, some parameters. You can change them later if you want to expand the options. Timeline charts. There's some various options. One of the big things that people will want to do in a timeline is consider whether or not you want to only show events that fall within the lifespans of the people on the chart, or just show all events. Again, that's your choice. And then an important thing for you will be when you create a PDF, what size paper do you want to use? Richard, unmute yourself and tell me what you use.
We mainly use A4.
Okay. So see, but the default is letter size, which is the US. Okay. So you'd want to go in and change that to A4 probably. Log settings. This is probably not something that you want to change. Import settings. There's a couple of things here that have to do with how you maintain your data in your genealogy program. I think it's very important that your genealogy program always be the master of what your data is. And if a person is deceased, you should be controlling that by your program. I don't know what software products you use, but the one that I use for my desktop work, which is Legacy, allows me to put private dates so that I can organize my index file of the people, because if I've got in my study 500 John Stedmans, at least if I can have an estimate of when that John Stedman was born, I'm going to have a better chance of, when I find a record, being able to match it up. But I don't want to publish these guesstimated dates.
Mainly listening.
So I will put in, so I won't, so as a private date, it isn't going to get exported in a GEDCOM, but it might not but I might not otherwise be showing that the person is deceased or living. So when I document a person is deceased and I don't know their death date, I always put in a death date of unknown, because that means that I know that someone is deceased, or at least I assume they're deceased. What I hate seeing in a tree somewhere, someone who's obviously 400 years old and listed as living, because someone hasn't gone to the effort to do anything to make them deceased. Okay, the reason I preface all of that discussion is because I'm going to go in here to the next step here, is saying, how are you going to import your data? This default that comes in here is assume a person is deceased if there's no birth date. I think that's dangerous, because living people are not, may be in with an estimated date, and so they're going to be, and they will be assumed as living. They would in your genealogy program, but the GEDCOM is going to assume that's living. But when you import this, if you say there's no birth date, assume a person is deceased, all of a sudden you've now exposed the details of a living person in your tree. So I always change this to, I assume the person is living, because that means that the worst that can happen is I show someone as living and private that should have been deceased. And I've had many people come and tell me, oh no, my grandfather's deceased. And I say, fine, give me the details. And we set it up. We set it up in my master program so that the next update of my website, it comes out clearly. But if there is no death date, how old do you assume the person is the oldest person? Currently, if a person is considered a supercentenarian and is known as a supercentenarian, and I think they're, which is anyone that's 110 or older, those people are well documented on the web somewhere, usually in Wikipedia. So if you put in 110, that's fine, because you may expose some living supercentenarians, but they're already exposed. So you're not exposing someone who isn't, who's supposed to be kept private. But if you want to be real, put 115, because I don't think at the time we are right now, there's anybody older than 115. Those that's the most important thing to look at. We're going to come here with this option of the default replacement option. The way I teach TNG, I will teach people all current, change default is all current data. But there are some people who stack several GEDCOMs within a single tree. And I'll talk about trees shortly. And if you put several trees and you're just replacing one, by doing a replace all current data, you're not going to be able to get your full set of data into there. So what you have to do is you have to use the matching records only option. I do not recommend trying to stack multiple GEDCOMs in a single tree. But understanding that concept is when we talk about trees. Okay, next is a map setting. Now there's some ways that you can describe the maps. I believe that the guild is going to be changing the mapping function that's standard in the very near future. Currently, we use Google Maps. The site activity is such that we're actually having to pay Google on a monthly basis several $100s for their use of the mapping. So right now, there's some work being done to try to find a way of to move to what's called the OpenStreetMaps mapping. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's something that's being planned. But for now, you can use the Google Maps. This is the Google Map key. It's already embedded there for you, so you don't need to reinvent to go get one for yourself. There are several options for what type of tree map you want: a terrain map, a road map, something that's a hybrid, or a satellite. Remember, the setting you make here is what you'll see for all of your maps in your site. I'm going to change this to a hybrid, because we'll show that when I create the tree here. We'll see what that looks like. And I also change this here so that I don't hide any maps. Now I'm going to get to the biggest aspect of your initial display, and the one part that you're going to have to do a lot of work with. And that is, what template do you want to use for your site? You'll get, the default is template 4. And I don't necessarily think the template 4 is the best choice for a one name study, because it's really designed around a family genealogy. The product comes, I think, now with 18 different templates that you can select. You want to go, you'll want to look through them and decide for yourself what you want. My favorite one is template 15. Now, you will see that each template comes with images that are embedded within it, links that you can build for it, and various stories that come about with it. I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm not sure what's going to show up in the share here, but let me see if I can go to a site that's got the type 15. Can you see this? Someone. This is a site. This is one of my sites for my Halls of New England study.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. And this gives you an ability to all sorts of stories you can that you can post about about your stuff. I could famous Hall descendants, DNA, something about the DNA, something about one of the immigrant ancestors, and these are stories that you can change on a regular basis. The pictures that go along with them can be changed on a regular basis. This is a very flexible site. You have some links here. I've got a blog site, and I have this takes me to the link to the blog. And then I have a Facebook site for this group. And that takes me to the Facebook group. I assume I can get back to where I was. So this is what how you structure your template and design your template is the big thing that's going to be a lot of work for you. Or you can do what I do with my Stedman site. Nothing, or almost nothing. It's just a coming soon because I don't have time to actually try something to get everything written. I just would rather research. So deciding which of the templates you want to use is one of the decisions that you need to make that I can't guide you on. The little text blurbs that are in here use they code the text using HTML tags and such. So you have to have a little bit of a knowledge of how to use HTML in order to write them out. But it's primarily, that you use the P to start a paragraph and a /P to end a paragraph. Now let's change this site to template 15. And here we are. Now it's template 15. Okay. So what we've accomplished so far is we've done the setup of your look and feel and privacy and such for your site. That's the first thing that you need to think about. The next thing you need to think about is you have to put your data in a tree. Now in TNG talk, a tree is basically a place where you store your data. You can have as many trees as you want. As I said, if your study has one big giant GEDCOM, like the Sprague study, which has got 450 or 500,000 names, it has a single tree. Or you can break it down to each lineage, biological family by DNA as a separate tree. However you wish to manage it is your choice. I have found for me that it works best if you have everything in a single tree. But that's just what works for me, because I find that too many of my trees, as I document them, connect with one another. So let's add a tree here. I'm gonna upload a GEDCOM of a family called Corp. It's a Swedish family. It's actually part of my family name. It's my grandmother's name, Corp. So you assign a name. The tree ID is something that you can't change. It's the way the tree ID is going to be identified in all your URLs for individual people that are in that tree. That's going to be part of it. If you have many trees, each tree will have its own unique ID, and it can and such. Now, I should point out one factor. The index that you see of people can either be of a single tree or of all of the trees. And the all of the tree option is one thing that I find is very useful, because you're able then to find out if you have an Albert Mary, you can, but you don't remember which family line he was in, but you know he was born in 1742. You can just do a search on all of your trees at one time, and you'll find out where he is. Oops, now you're getting my street address. I don't care. Everybody else knows it. I try to keep the owner information private on any tree. There's too many bad guys out there. And I check off don't allow users to download GEDCOM files. I talked to that before. I'm not checking off don't allow users to create PDF files. That's whenever anybody registers for an account, a user account, I'm going to give them that as a privilege to be able to create a PDF file. So if they create a report of some sort, they'll be able to save it out as a PDF. Okay, so now we have the tree identified. Now we've got to import now we have to go in and import the information. So we go to the import export function. So I'm going to go look for this file on my computer. Here's a JED, this is where the JEDCOM is, and it's going to upload it. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to manage the custom events. This is something that is an important part of what goes into your data, what gets imported into your data. So I identify the JEDCOM, and I click on this little button that says import custom event types only. All it's doing is going to import what custom events are in this tree. This usually happens fairly quickly. Okay. Now I'm going to exit from the import export function and go into custom event types. Now I've got 61 different types of custom events in this particular tree. As you see, when they come in, they're all given the order of 0. I have a particular order structure to what the way I want these things ordered. I'm not going to go into doing that all now, but you'll see that on import, this function would be ignored. These custom events would be ignored by default. So the first thing I'm going to do is select all and accept all the selected. So now all of these custom events are going to be accepted, and you'll notice that they're set up between individual events and family events, and you'll want to inspect those to when you're looking at your data, to make sure you don't have a marriage event of some sort under an individual. You want marriage events of the various types to be with a family event, and of course vice versa. And then goes to the next, select all, accept selected. Now after I've done those, I'm going to go look at these, and I'm going to say that some of these are ones I don't want to show, ones that I just know because of the way they're how the things work, that are not part of let's see. And so these two, I'm going to ignore those selected ones because I've decided that. And one of the tricks that I do is that when I have something that I'm ignoring, I set it to display order 99. It helps me know that it's being ignored intentionally. Now you'll see that I have several proprietary tags that came in from the JEDCOM. I don't necessarily want this as what's going to be in the display. Hashtag is a legacy function that has to do with types of groups. So I changed the display for that to group. CSTAT is what's used for child status in legacy. And now when a child status or a hashtag of things comes across, it's now going to display properly. I would change it _married _none _stat to various things also, but for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to go into all of that. Let's see if there's anything here that, okay. I think that's good enough. Basically, what we've done now is we've organized the your custom events. Remember, if you don't do this, none of these things will be imported and they won't be displayed in your tree online. So we go back to export import again. Now, you have sometimes you'll import your GEDCOM and it'll actually stay on this website. But since we're downloading it the way we're doing, we have to go upload it again. And now we're going to actually import it. Notice we're putting it into the corp genealogy tree that we created in the when we were in the tree step. We've selected all current data. If you've got most of your modern systems, it will when you do the export of your data, and if you have media attached to your tree, the GEDCOM will include a link to the media, but it won't actually include the media. We're going to have to do that as a second step. So, so what this check mark here does is assures that your media links are imported, so that then when you bring in your media, you can easily connect them. The next step here is checkbox is import latitude longitude data. Again, I always do my geocoding in my desktop application, and so therefore when a map is coming in, the map data is coming in with the GEDCOM. Now you can geocode again through TNG, but then you're going to have to geocode basically every time you do an import. A lot of what I do is to make it so that I have as little work to do each time I do an import. So now after you've set up all of that, you now import your data. Now for this tree, there's only 1,000 or 2,000 people in it. It's going to go fairly quickly. When Richard Weber imports his tree of 450,000 spragues, he can be importing for a couple of hours. Okay, so now we've got the data imported, and we'll go to the public home. And we'll say go to search, last name corp. And here you see the corpse. Okay. But what don't we have involved with any of these people? let me go to my grandmother's account. You see all these cameras? That says the media that's attached to that event. We've got a link to it, but there's no media there to attach to it. So we've got to get the media in. So let's go back here to the media function. And here it's showing that we have 103 media events. And and the standard for TNG for basically images or simple media are that you've got a photos collection, documents collection, headstones collection, histories collection, recordings, and videos. These are all different types of things. One of the things that I do, and we'll see this as I'll show it, I guess, we do with one of these functions, is I organize my media into these four buckets, into the four buckets of photos, documents, histories, and headstones. Headstones, I include anything that deals with a cemetery. So we go to this function. So I'll tell you, I usually, with my sites, I usually use a file transfer protocols program, FTP program, to import the data. But in one of the recent versions of TNG, they've added actually an ability to upload your data without FTP. So we're going to upload, we're going to start by uploading the collections folder. Now, I have to tell you that I did this for the first time this morning. I got it to work, and let's hope it'll work again, because it's so simple that it almost seems like you're doing something wrong. Adding files. I'm going back to my media folder up here, selecting photos. And then I basically select all of the photos. Can someone tell me whether or not they can see this? This, you can see okay.
Yep, still working.
Okay, now you see they're almost uploaded. So let me do you start the upload. And that was fast. And now we'll go into another collection. We'll go to the documents ones. We add files. Where's my cursor? I lost my cursor. Oh, there it is. Don't need that. When you upload JEDCOM with the data on a media item, not the JEDCOM doesn't necessarily bring in all of the fields that TNG wants. So one of the things you are going to have to do with each of the media items is one time through, go through and edit them. Now you can add some of the fields here, right from here. Who is the owner of this image? Where did you get it from? When was it taken? I believe one of the other functions that is being done while it's uploading this data, and this is uploading about 75 megabytes worth of data, so it's going to take a few minutes. Is that you can do some of the editing in here, but it's also what it's doing is it's going to be, I think it's creating the thumbnail images that the program uses. So you don't have to go create thumbnails, which is one of the other functions that you have in this media stuff. Playing with media is going to be something that you're going to have a lot of fun with once you start working with it.
Excuse me, John, while that's loading.
Yes.
I didn't see exactly how you got to this media part, and I can't see that in my TNG site, but maybe that's because when I did the import, I didn't check import the media links as well. So is that why I can't find this media part?
No, it didn't see. Here's media over here on the.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. That should be there whether or not you've got any media or not.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I must have been odd.
But if you
Okay,
don't,
now I see where the add new part is. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. If I redo the JEDCOM, import the media links, and then go through the process that you're going through now, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Then next time when I want to import an updated JEDCOM, because I've changed data and added data, etc. If you tick the box, which I think we said was replacing all data, or somewhere along one of the earlier settings here, if I've changed some data on some people and it imports the new data,
with new media links?
Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
Yep.
All you have to worry about is the new.
Excellent. Because I'm a big believer in your philosophy of don't do anything the hard way if there's an easy way.
Okay.
Don't make work for yourself.
No, when you re-import an updated JEDCOM, all you have to do is import the new media that's going on. Knowing what the new media is could be a challenge, but it shouldn't be.
Yes, and I guess that's a matter of how you organize it inside on your desktop PC in Explorer or whatever. That's how you organize it here. Yes, to keep track of what's. Yeah.
You can't necessarily work by date of the image, because the image could be could be an old image of some sort. That
Yeah.
yes.
But
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe if you add new stuff, you have to add it into a new folder.
No,
then-
no, I don't put it into a new folder
No,
because
not even
one of the things,
temporarily.
no, not even temporarily. I just, well, you're see, well, let me finish this up. I've got one more item to do. Okay. Now all of the images have been uploaded.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, when I go back to the search function, you'll see I've got a thumbnail for each one of them.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, is how you, now, some of them, for some reason, didn't get a thumbnail. But the reason is this record or this image needs to be in the documents folder. I can just see by what it is. It's a baptismal record image. So I want to convert that into becoming a document.
Okay, and I see that you have
And now,
JPEGs which are documents rather than being photos. Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the edit. This is the media edit. I want to create the thumbnail from the original.
Yeah.
Okay. I can add in a description and a source here for it. One of the things I do on a lot of my images is I always check off always viewable.
Mhm.
Okay, so don't ask me what's going on the mapping. But there we go. Now we have the baptismal record, the thumbnail for the thumbnail now there is a thumbnail function for you to bulk create the things, but unless you've got a lot to do. Now, this is where you go back and check what's going on here. Some of these things are still in the photos folder that should be a collection, I should call it. Actually, got to use the right words. And when they're really if I just want to display one thing, I want to display the photos list.
John, while you're doing that, I use Family Tree Maker rather than Legacy, and my media file is not sorted into buckets. It's just, there's a mixture of documents and photos in it. Do I have to do, I'm worried that if I try and sort that, it actually won't work. as
Well, you
attachments?
can organize it all with when you get it up to TNG.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
thanks.
I mean, I just do things that I found work are convenient for me. Okay.
John, it's Liz here.
Yeah.
I noticed before you talked about a large tree or separate trees. All of my Lathrop information is under my Peters family tree, and all of my DNA sets are under the Peters family tree. If I'm going to do a one name study just for Lathrop and then do a TNG site just for Lathrop, do I need to make a separate tree and start again just for Lathrop
No.
in Ancestry?
No. You've got you have all your Lathrop data in one in a tree with your personal genealogy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. My major tree is Peters and
Mhm.
Hawkes, and Lathrop is a branch, and that's the branch I'm going to do the one name study on. Do I need to pull that branch out and make a whole separate tree in Ancestry?
No.
Okay, that's good.
No.
That saves a lot of work.
I will tell you this though. An Ancestry GEDCOM is going to give you a lot of problems importing.
Why aren't I surprised?
Um, I hate to say I hate to I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings all the time. But the reality is that Ancestry does a lot of bad things in the GEDCOM. And I will tell you what the worst thing is. If you export a GEDCOM from Ancestry and a couple that you have do not have a marriage event that you've put in there, manually inserted it, they will come out in any other application as not married. And I haven't found a way of getting around that, even if you call them spouses.
Okay, I was going to say, is there a way around it if I go in and manually?
No, but if you do not have a marriage event, and I've reported this to Ancestry some time ago, they don't seem to be interested in doing anything about it.
So if I go in and make a marriage event for all of my Lathropes, even if it's just a presumed date and place, will
All
that
you have
get
to do is
done?
you just have to put the event in,
Yeah.
as long as you tie the two
Two people
spouses.
together. That's okay.
But it's better. I would put, because so the timeline comes out, I would put at least a before date.
Yeah.
Or an about date of something.
I'm fairly sure that the Lathropes that I've got and I care about to start with have got at least that. And then as I go through, if I can't find information, I'll try and work around the period I'm working in.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay.
So John, I'm pulling my Ancestry tree across into Family Tree Maker, and they appear to be couples when they're in Family Tree Maker. Has that got around that problem, or even if they don't have a marriage event? Have to try and see, I suppose.
When I did a test to sync a tree down, download a tree into Family Tree Maker. I've got a test tree that I've been working on to demonstrate this to the Ancestry company. And I did a download into Family Tree Maker and into RootsWeb, and I couldn't detect on either of them that the couple that when you created a GEDCOM from those applications that the marriage tag was included in the family structure. If that means I'm trying to be very nice about the fact that I know too much about GEDCOM. And
Okay,
um,
but even I
now,
mean,
if
I
it
have
now I may be
people who I don't even know if they're married or not.
pardon.
They were having children together, but some of them may or may not have been married.
Yeah.
So do I still have to put some sort of event in for them?
As I said, the best thing to do is you try it out on Family Tree Maker. I mean, it may be that Family Tree Maker has done something with some later update that I haven't played with. But what I have discovered is that all of the applications, I think I've mentioned in the past that I'm on the beta test team for Legacy, and I've been the test lead for some time. We discovered a problem that when customers were importing into Legacy, Legacy was making an assumption that there was a marriage, and that wasn't. And the result, we found that we couldn't. That other applications didn't assume a marriage without putting the marriage tag in the family structure, but Legacy was doing this. So we've had to make some recently in the last 6 months, some corrections with Legacy. But as a result, I went back and tested all the other major applications to find out how they were handling it. And I found that Legacy was actually being the outlier. And we've had to update the way Legacy works. If we assume that there's no marriage, for a couple, now we don't export a marriage tag. And if we don't find a marriage tag, when we do an import, we don't set the couple as married.
Perhaps if
And
we assume they're couples, we could put de facto. Perhaps if we're assuming they're couples, but no marriage, maybe we could put de facto.
no, we just say that we have to say that if you look at unfortunately, this goes back to the GEDCOM standard. The only way you can represent that a couple is not married is not to include the marriage tag, MARR, in the
Okay.
and so the idea is we have to make sure that we're communicating with other applications correctly. But what you're seeing is that when Ancestry creates a spousal relationship, you say that that a couple is a spouse. That assumes marriage, but when they do the GEDCOM export, they don't include a marriage tag. Okay. There. I'll go back on here, and we've now uploaded the media. I'm not going to go through all of them, correct all of the media. It's not necessary, but I can show you now that we've now got my grandmother's birth record now correctly displaying. And don't ask me why the maps are not working. Maybe the map key that they put out is not correct. as I said, that's an area that they're working on. Okay, so I think that covers the basics of setting up a new site. I'll let you can one of the capabilities you have is virtual cemeteries that you can create. If you have a lot of ancestors in one cemetery, you can create a cemetery for them. You can put a picture of the cemetery, some cemetery picture like the front gate. You can create, if you have a map of the cemetery of where things are, you can upload a map for the cemetery, and you can basically add any of your headstone pictures and people to that cemetery, and they will all display here. I'll show you what that looks like. Maybe I have, do I have cemeteries in this one? Nah, I haven't bothered doing cemeteries in that side. Okay, I think I've got some cemeteries in here. Yeah, I've got lots of cemeteries. I haven't bothered getting a map key, so I don't have the map there. Oh, I've got a cemetery created, but nobody in it. There we go. There's a cemetery. And it shows you can have all of the various gravestones and such like that displaying in it. One of the things that Legacy gives me is the ability to export. Let's see if I've done it with this person. No, I haven't done it with this person. Okay. Legacy allows you to embed the family search ID and your Find a Grave Memorial ID in your person record, and you can export that in a GEDCOM. So by clicking on this link here, okay, why isn't it working? Well, I'm not going to worry about that because that wasn't what I wanted to show. Yeah, that's Sorry, they changed their format, but I have the link and it goes right to the Find a Grave page. So I don't need to save all the headstones that are in Find a Grave. I can just have people go to the actual site, and they can get all of the information for the person. And of course, this might get updated from time to time. But as long as I embed the Find a Grave ID in my legacy file, I've got TNG will display that, will allow a user to go right there. Remember, I was showing you that hashtags thing. That's another function of legacy where I'm able to create groups. One of the things that I've done with the Hall family, I did this as an example, is I created the concept of a badge. And everybody who's in DNA family 24, Hall DNA family 24 gets this badge. And it allows me to be able to look at a person and know immediately which of the DNA families that person is part of. But I have other badges that I associate. I've got a badge here for immigrants. I've got a badge for Mayflower descendants. Badges for I've created a number of different badges for different ways of visualizing them. Instead of just seeing a blank silhouette for a person, I'm now able to show some sort of an imagery that is more illustrative to the person. Now, one of the famous descendants of this George Hall that I was showing was Mitt Romney, the senator from Utah. And here's a relationship chart. Again, watching, you can see the badges and such would show the descendancy and how it comes in. I used to be a very avid stamp collector, and as you saw from my homepage here, I illustrated General MacArthur with the postage stamp for him. I've got in this I'm illustrating President John Adams with his thing. but he also has other badges that he's earned. He's earned a badge as a Mayflower descendant and as a Revolutionary War patriot. And I try to use stamps. I've got, for some of my English Stedmans, I have special badges for Boer War and some of the other ones using some English stamps. I don't have any Gallipoli stamps that I could show, but if I had anybody like who was at Gallipoli, I'd probably find a badge for them. I have a badge for most of the I have
John,
badge.
John, I think there's a stamp of a fellow called Simpson and his donkey, which was a Gallipoli thing that an Australian stamp that you should be able to chase up. Or if I can find it, I'll send you.
Okay, but I don't know that I have anybody that was at Gallipoli and that I would be yet. But yes, I would like to see something like that. I have this badge, which helps me find people that I really want to find. And you'll see here that this tells me all of the people it's linked to. I have a different brick wall badge for people that are not Halls for this Hall study. You'll see that this goes on and on because I've got, in some cases, thousands of people attached to certain badges based on the work that I've done. There's the Mayflower Passage from a U.S. stamp that came out in 1920. But I've got one for Afghanistan, Iraq, Korea, Mexican-American War. Whenever here's a New Zealand for the stamp for the Boer War. Spanish-American War, Civil War. I just think that one of the things you want to do is you want to make your display of your site as colorful as possible. And such. So there's things you can do. Let's see. Was there another? Oh, I know something I want to show you. Something that you can create. And this would be the subject of another talk. You can create reports, fairly simple reports for anybody who knows anything about SQL. It's a simple SQL reports, but here's a report of all of the Mayflower passengers that I document in my tree. Or I could go to a report of historically famous people. Gee, look who's in my tree. I think some of you remember him. He is actually a descendant of the Halls of New England. You were saying something, Paul? Muted?
Sorry, I was just going to say that I just had a Google image search, and there is one indeed of Simpson and his donkey, an Australian stamp. I remembered it, but I've seen a picture of it now.
Mm-hmm. Churchill is not only a descendant of the Halls of New England, but he's a descendant of several Revolutionary War patriots in the United States. And actually, after he left the prime ministership, he applied and was accepted as a member of the Sons of the American Revolution. That's the DAR equivalent for men. So I have an extensive Churchill tree buried within this thing. One of the presidential candidates that we had last in the United States this last year was a fellow named Mayor Pete Buttigieg, whose family is from Malta. It turns out he's a cousin of Winston Churchill and John Adams, but not through his father's Malta side, but through his mother's side. And he's also on his mother's side is a cousin of the royal family through Princess Diana. It's a game I play. I can't help it. So that's a basic it. I'm sure people have some questions. Phil, let's ask some questions and I'll see what I can tell you about. And if we have something that's detailed, we'll go and have another session. But for now, let me stop the recording.